Hey everyone, so I wanted to do a really quick video just with my initial thoughts on the election. I planned initially to get this out much earlier, but I literally didn't get a minute of sleep last night. I fell asleep finally at noon today and got about 2 to 3 hours on and off of sleep. So I feel like a zombie, and I'm gonna postpone the new episode of the podcast until tomorrow because initially I was gonna get up early, film today, uh, but I didn't get any sleep, and I figured that I would be a lot more effective as a communicator if I waited until I was a little bit more well rested. But nonetheless, I still do want to give you my reaction. So, my initial thought was wow, this election, what we witnessed was honestly one of the biggest political upsets in American history, if not the biggest political upset in American history. From the very beginning, everyone expected Hillary Clinton to be the inevitable president of the United States. Democratic Party loyalists and Democratic establishment members made jokes about it. Everyone really underestimated the threat that was Donald Trump. And now we have a President Donald Trump. Let that sink in. President Donald Trump. How strange is that? I don't even know what to make of this. President Trump. We not only gave him the keys to the White House, but we gave him the House, we gave him the Senate, and we gave him little institutional checks on his authority. That's scary, but I want you to know that we're all going to be okay. We have to calm down, and if politics is too much for you, I want you to turn off the computer, turn off the television, go for a walk, play video games, because it's not worth affecting your mood. You shouldn't allow yourself to become depressed or have anxiety or literally have panic attacks over this election. It's not worth it. And I think that your mental health is more important than anything else. So just take the time that you need. If you're really stressed out from this election cycle, then disengage. But know this. We have American political institutions that have existed for centuries, and they are set up specifically to prevent people like Donald Trump from ruining the country. So even though we're going to take several steps backwards when it comes to the economy and social issues, we will rebound from this, and we will emerge as, I think, a stronger unit that will give Democrats and Republicans hell if they don't wake up. So that's what I want to say first. So the initial thing that we want to do is figure out who's culpable. Why is it the case that Hillary Clinton was defeated? She was ahead in the polls. All of the media was effectively on her side. They were carrying water for her. You had comedians basically making jokes at people who were against her. So how the hell did she lose in spite of this advantage, in spite of having the Clinton machine? Here's what I initially thought would happen. I thought that everyone would point at Jill Stein and Gary Johnson and say, I told you so. I fucking told you so. If you vote for third party, you split the liberal votes, and then you hand the election to a Republican. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. We had Gary Johnson, the more conservative third party candidate. He's a libertarian. He pulled in more votes, and he took votes away from Donald Trump. Jill Stein actually got people to come out and vote and possibly help Democrats pick up the seats in the House that they did and gain the Senate seats that they did. So if anything, we should be thanking Jill Stein and Gary Johnson right now from keeping Trump from having an even larger blowout. Now, other people will want to blame this on sexism. Well, we just weren't ready for the first female president. No, that's not it. We were. Many of us were. Many of us were. And I think that if you would have had Elizabeth Warren run in the beginning, she would have beat Donald Trump handily. If you would have had any other competent, less corrupt Democratic member run, I think they would have beat Donald Trump handily. I think there are a few Democrats that would have lost to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton is one of the few. Now, also, James Comey. Should we blame James Comey? There are some articles saying, yeah, James Comey, he made this surprise announcement and it kind of hurt Hillary Clinton. Well, regardless if that is or isn't the case, we have to blame Hillary Clinton for having the private email server to begin with. You can't expect to do things that are suspicious to the American people and not expect there to be consequences. So regardless if James Comey's intentions were in fact to influence the election, We have to blame Hillary Clinton for creating the scandal in the first place. Do you know who James Comey could not reopen an investigation for just 11 days before the election? Bernie Sanders. You guys told us that he wasn't electable. Many articles said, if you vote for Bernie Sanders, you are handing the election to Donald Trump. Yeah? Well, how'd that work out for you? Now another, Russia, WikiLeaks. Should we blame WikiLeaks? No, they're being objective. They are putting information out there for the American people to read to make a more informed choice. Should we blame Bernie Sanders? No. Bernie Sanders, they're lucky. They're so lucky. They should be thanking Bernie Sanders and apologizing to him after they rigged the primary against him. He didn't have to go and endorse Hillary Clinton. He didn't have to act as a surrogate, but knowing how much of a disaster Donald Trump would be, he decided to swallow his pride and do what he didn't want to do and endorse and support Hillary Clinton. So who is it that we can actually blame? If you read my article in the Huffington Post that was published like about a month ago, I said if Trump wins, blame Clinton. That's who we should blame. Now, don't get me wrong. The Democratic Party establishment and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they're also culpable. But Hillary Clinton, as a seasoned politician, she should have known better. You can't snub your fucking base. You can't snub your base, Hillary Clinton. You can't literally demonize the supporters of a very popular candidate like Bernie Sanders and call them Bernie bros and put forth a sexist narrative and smear him unfairly and then play the victim and say that he's running a dirty campaign. You can't do that. You can't do that and then rig the primary and collaborate with Debbie Wasserman Schultz to disadvantage Bernie Sanders and create media narratives that would smear him and make it so that way you'd be the more easily electable candidate in the primaries by moving red states forward and having those first and having closed primaries and having superdelegates. You can't do shit like that. And you didn't even try to unify the party. You didn't even try, Hillary. You didn't even try once. You could have selected Elizabeth Warren. We were all angry at her for her silence during the Democratic primary, but you would have swayed a lot more people. You chose Tim Kaine, the worst possible choice. You then decided to start courting neoconservatives. You're in the liberal party, the so-called liberal party. And rather than trying to reassure us that you're not going to be a warmonger and appease the donors that you have within the military-industrial complex, you decided to just shoot for the endorsements for every neoconservative scumbag in the country, in the world. Henry Kissinger, John Negroponte. You can't do shit like that, Hillary, if you want to win in the liberal party. You can't do that. Also, you thought that you had millennials and Bernie Sanders supporters on lock. You didn't. What did we tell you? I said, many of us will support Hillary just to defeat Donald Trump, but not all of us will. And I think you're really playing with fire here because a big enough portion will not come out to support you. So it's not that, we cast our votes for Jill Stein and that cost you the election. What happened overall is your own base was depressed and didn't come out to support you. You did nothing to turn that around. And at a couple of months before the election, maybe like a month and a half before the election, you saw that 1/3 of millennials are voting third party, and all of a sudden you had to do a 180 and stop courting neoconservatives and start trying to actually get millennials to come on board. And what do? You pander. You get Katy Perry and Lena Dunham to do propaganda for you. As if we are that superficial, as if that would resonate with us more than the actual policy issues. And when it did come to the policy issues, you trotted out Bernie Sanders as a prop and plastered free college tuition everywhere. Hillary, we don't believe a single fucking word you're saying. We don't believe a single word you're saying. Had you championed that policy from the beginning of your campaign, we'd believe you. But the only time you start talking about free college tuition was when you realize you're losing with millennials. Again, complete and utterly clueless. And this was just a historically bad campaign. Democrats played with fire and they got burnt. And they made their bed, they lied in it with Hillary Clinton, and now we're all fucked because of them. We all have to deal with a Donald Trump presidency and a Republican Congress and Supreme Court now because of the Democrats and their narcissism and their arrogance and their decision to snub their base because they wanted to fight against the candidate that would work against the interests of their corporate donors. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And you did all of this while claiming to care about women and LGBT people and people of color and undocumented immigrants and Muslims. But you took a gamble with their lives. You took a gamble. You claimed that you cared about them, but yet you ran a shitty campaign. You divided the base and didn't do a single fucking thing to reunify them. That has consequences. Actions have consequences. You lost because you ran a shitty campaign. Bernie Sanders was beating Donald Trump on average by a 10-point margin. A 10-point margin. That's, if you all don't know, that's outside of the margin of error. You were within the margin of error. It could have gone either way. Now, again, I was shocked. I expected Hillary Clinton to pull out a win. I didn't think it would be a landslide. I didn't, especially after the James Comey announcement. I knew that it was going to be relatively close, but I wasn't sure. I thought ultimately Donald Trump would be defeated, but lo and behold, to no one's surprise, fear is not a viable electoral strategy. Here's one thing that I want Democrats to realize, and if you want to be a politician that's successful in America, this is what you have to realize. If you want to win an election, you have to give voters something to vote for. You can't expect to win based on what they're voting against. See, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and Democratic strategists, so-called strategists, said, the ultimate political mobilizer for liberals will be Donald Trump. They will come out in droves to defeat Donald Trump. No, that's not how this works. Give us something to vote for, not against. If we're not inspired, we just stay home. We just stay home. That's it. We stay home. Many demographics stayed home. Many demographics who came out to support Obama in 2008 and 2012 stayed home because they weren't inspired by Hillary Clinton. She thought that she had every single core demographic of the Democratic Party on lock. African Americans, Latinos. You didn't, Hillary. You didn't. And your hubris cost you this election. The hubris and the arrogance of the Democratic Party cost them the election. Yes, Republicans are crazy, but simply being less shitty, simply being the lesser of two evils will not make you electorally successful. Get that through your thick skull. As someone who is one of Hillary Clinton's biggest critics on the left, I want to say this. Hillary, if you would have actually tried to really tune into voters and not just pursue the office because of your own narcissism, you could have had a chance. What we saw today with your concession speech was the Hillary Clinton that we saw in the 1990s. We saw the Hillary Clinton, for a snapshot of a second, who tried to fight for universal health care. We saw the Hillary Clinton who was just genuine and said, look, this is going to take me a long time to get over it. Your campaign slogan was, I'm with her. I want you to be with us, Hillary Clinton, because you're an elite. You don't need people to be with you. You're going to be fine. You have millions of dollars. You have hundreds of millions of dollars. You're going to be okay. It's the American people who are the ones that need to know that you're with us. So your campaign slogan, if anything, should have been, I'm with you. And furthermore, before that, it was, well, I'm ready for Hillary. That's what people were saying. I'm ready for Hillary. That's not the way this works. Okay, I legitimately do feel bad for Hillary Clinton. As someone who, again, who's her biggest critic on the left, I feel bad just on a human level because she really wanted this. This is something that she dedicated every single day of her life fighting for, to build up her resume for the last 15 years, maybe 2 decades. She did everything she could to possibly prepare, but what she doesn't realize is that you're not entitled to that position, so it doesn't matter how much you prepared. And if you were Secretary of State and a senator, if the American people don't feel as though you're going to fight for them, they're not going to support you. So this isn't, we don't live in a monarchy where we just appoint people with popular last names such as Clinton or Bush to the office of the presidency. We don't do that. So if you really want to be in the White House, you have to earn it. And you don't earn that by building your resume and, being someone who is an establishment insider. You do that by convincing the American people that you're with them, and your record shows us that you're not with them. Now, that's not to detract from the good things that you have done in your career, but by and large, Hillary, You changed after you became first lady. The minute you became a senator, some things that you were in favor of stopping, like the bankruptcy bill, you flipped and you supported once you started taking corporate money. You showed us that you were corruptible, and that's not acceptable. We don't want that, okay? Obama betrayed us when he got in office and proved to us that he was corruptible. We didn't look at his campaign contributors. We did that this time. We're not making that mistake ever again. We did that with you, Hillary Clinton, and realized, well, you're not with us. You're not with us. You're with your donors. And we know you're going to get in office and do the bidding of your donors. Now, on just a personal note, I wish nothing but good things for Hillary Clinton. I hope that she can take this time to recover. I hope that she looks out for herself and takes time off and just spends time with her family, spends time with her grandchildren, and just can relax. You're going to be okay. You have millions of dollars, okay? And I get that this was a defeat. I get that it hurts. I get that. But because of your arrogance, we all are now going to suffer. And again, I should have no sympathy for Hillary Clinton after what she did, after the way she conducted herself, after the way she colluded with the DNC to rig the primary against Bernie Sanders. I should have no sympathy, but I do. I feel for humans. Even though she is a multimillionaire, even though she's an oligarch, she is a human being, and I do feel bad for her, just on a personal level. Now, the conclusion is that Democrats, if you want to play with fire, you're going to get burned. We told you Bernie Sanders was the more electable candidate, and you basically laughed in our face. You reap what you sow. My goal going forward is to strive for objectivity. If Donald Trump does bad shit, and he's going to do a lot of bad things, I'm calling him out. If Donald Trump does good things, then I'm going to commend him for it. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to strive for objectivity if we really do want to be closer to the truth. So my goal is to cover Donald Trump objectively. So in the end, what's the main takeaway? Well, I'll get to my post-mortem analysis. I'll try to have that up tomorrow. Throughout the week, I'll be posting segments about this election and what went wrong. And I think that if you've been watching the Humanist Report, my analysis will not really be much different. If you run a shitty campaign, there's going to be consequences for that. And unfortunately, it's not consequences that the Democratic Party elites are going to have to feel. The American people are going to be the ones that have to feel it. So that's all I have to say. I want everyone, again, to, if it becomes too stressful, just disengage from politics. But just know that Donald Trump, he's the worst case scenario. We're certainly living in the darkest timeline imaginable. But Donald Trump tapped into this anti-establishment anger that Democrats were oblivious to. They saw Bernie Sanders and laughed at him. He would have won handily. Bernie Sanders would have won handily. And that's the overall takeaway. But, it's not just about racism. Sure, Donald Trump has a lot of racists and, Ku Klux Klan members supporting him. Yes. But, what we saw yesterday was a brick being thrown through the establishment's window. Their time is up, and if Democrats want to be corporatists, then that will determine whether or not we're going to have Trump for 4 or 8 years. So Democrats, get your fucking shit together. This is your fault. Own it and apologize. And cleanse the DNC of any corrupt idiot that ruined this election and helped Donald Trump become elected. Because you blamed us for helping Donald Trump by voting for Bernie or Jill Stein. No. Thank yourself. You have nobody but yourself to blame and thank for that. So congratulations, Democrats, because, again, this is your fault. So own it.